Zebulun, Elon, I, the Tetragrammaton, the Lord God Most High, I do exercise thee, and do powerfully command thee, O Spirit. Elon, I, the Tetragrammaton, the Lord God Most High, I do exercise thee, and do powerfully command.
In the dark shadows, in the white cold, fearlessly we search for knowledge new and old. We drink the strong spirits and read the ancient tomes. The order of the Abracast. We are the brave and the bold. Occult, history, conspiracy, and violence.
Welcome to the Abracast. I'm your host, John Towers. Thank you for tuning in. I thought it would be try to get back to a little bit of normalcy here on the show and slip an Exodus episode in. So this is going to be picking up where we left off, and it's been quite some time, since the world started ending that we've had a chance to do an Exodus episode. So, we're going to do that. I'm going to do like a quick, sort of catch up to where we are in the story, from my whole Bible, the King James Red Letter. And, then we'll flip over to Ginsburg's Legends of the Jews, to continue that story. I'm recording here from, the wilderness, shadowed by a column of smoke in the daytime, tabernacles in the Ark of the Covenant, and a bunch of homeless Jews wandering around. And here's me with my podcast equipment. I got my vessel of the art here with my weapon of mass distraction. Please remember to check out Abracast.com. I think that we're going to be doing something fun here pretty soon. I was quite taken with Jeremy's Razors bit. I don't know if it was such a big deal to everybody as it was for me, but Jeremy Boring, he runs a Daily Wire, and he got pissed because some razor company tried to get him to, they pulled their ad space or something after, some quote controversial unquote thing. It's just a attack of organized wokeism. So Jeremy Boring was like, well, fuck Harry's Razors. I'm going to start my own razor company. And he did this brilliant TV commercial. And he did it like a presser or something afterwards. And he was like, what we really need to do is we need to create our own culture. We need to, create our own culture. And Dinesh D'Souza talks about it in his book where he's like, we need to create our own colleges, and we need to, as conservatives, we need to create our own colleges, and we need to make movies and TV shows, and we need comedians too. And it really, I really took it to heart. Well, we'll see how much I take it to heart, but I think that there's going to be some fun stuff cooking. So I guess this is just me teasing it. So with that being said, God, I'm already off here on a tangent. So check out Abracast.com. Check out the storefront. You can get your own very own vessel of the art. We got a lot of cool T-shirts and stickers, and and don't forget my very own set of tarot cards and the 12th expansion deck and yada yada yada. Enough with it. Let's go. I got to get some go juice in me. It's the mother's milk. Exodus. Oh shit, where am I at? Great preparation there, Dr. Towers. Where the fuck am I? Exodus 19:16. On the morning of the third day, there was thunder and lightning with a thick cloud over the mountain and a very loud trumpet blast. Everyone in the camp trembled. And Moses led the people out of the camp to meet with God. And they stood at the foot of the mountain. Mount Sinai was covered with smoke because the Lord descended on it in fire. And the smoke billowed up from it like smoke from a furnace, and the whole mountain trembled violently. And the sound of the trumpet grew louder and louder, and Moses spoke with the voice of God answered him. And the Lord descended to the top of Mount Sinai and called to Moses to the top of the mountain. So Moses went up, and the Lord said to him, "Go down and warn the people so they do not force their way through to see the Lord." And so that they do not force their way to see the Lord, and many of them perish. Even the priests who approach the Lord must consecrate themselves, or the Lord will break out against them. And Moses said to the Lord, "The people cannot come out to Mount Sinai because you yourself warned us to put limits around the mountain and to set it apart as holy." The Lord replied, "Go down and bring Aaron up with you. But those priests and those people must not force their way through to come up to the Lord, or he will break out against them." So Moses went down to the people and told them, I am the Lord God, the Lord your God, who brought you out of Egypt, out of the land." Oh, I'm really fucking this up. So Moses went down to the people and told them, 20 verse 1 through 26. And God spoke all these words: "I am the Lord your God, who brought you out of Egypt, out of the land of slavery. You shall have no other gods before me. You shall not make for yourself an idol in the form of anything in heaven above, or on earth, or below the earth, or in the waters below. You shall not bow down to them or worship them, for I am the Lord God. I am a jealous God, punishing these children for the sins of their fathers to the third and the fourth generation, but those who hate me, but showing love to thousands of generations of those who love me and keep my commandments. You shall not misuse the name of the Lord your God, for the Lord will not hold anyone guiltless who misuses his name. Remember the Sabbath day by keeping it holy. Holy 6 days you shall labor. Do all your work, but on that seventh day is a Sabbath to the Lord your God. On it you shall not do any work, neither you, nor your son, nor your daughter, nor your manservants, nor your maidservants, nor your animals, nor the alien within your gate. For in the 6th day the Lord made the heavens and the earth, the sea, and all that is in them. But he rested on the 7th day, and therefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and made it holy. Holy! Honor your father and your mother, so that you may live long in the land, and the Lord God is given you. You shall not murder. You shall not commit adultery. You shall not steal. You shall not give false testimony against your neighbors, and you shall not covet your neighbor's house. You shall not covet your neighbor's wife, or his manservant, or his maidservant, or his ox, or his donkey, or anything that belongs to your neighbor. when the people saw the thunder and the lightning, and they heard the trumpet, and they saw the mountain in smoke, they trembled with fear, and they stayed at a distance and said to Moses, "Speak to us beyond, and we will listen. But do not have God speak to us, or we will die." Moses said to the people, "Do not be afraid. God has come to test you, so that the fear of God will be with you and keep you from sinning." The people remained at a distance while Moses approached the thick darkness where God was. When the Lord said to Moses, "Tell the Israelites this: You have seen for yourselves that I have spoken to you from heaven. Do not make any gods to be alongside me. Do not make for yourselves gods of silver or gods of gold. Make an altar of earth for me and sacrifice on it your burnt offerings and fellowship offerings and your sheep and your goats and your cattle. Wherever I cause my name to be honored, I cause my name to be honored. I will come to you and bless you. If you make an altar of stone for me, do not build it with the dressed stones, for you will defile it. Use up a tool on it. Do not go up to my altar on steps, lest your nakedness be exposed on it." So here, my old trusty red letter just kind of continues the story, but we want to talk about the legends of the Jews. That's the whole point of this. So when I think of this story, it always kind of cracks me up, because he's like, "I'm the most powerful God. Who's the meanest? Who's the baddest motherfucker? I am. But don't go make any gold cow statues and pray to them. Like, I don't like that shit. I'm the jealous God." So it's funny. And then I always also like this part of the story because, we see God, in the legends of the Jews. We get to see, this oral tradition of him kind of being like the God of time. And then later on, after they get to the promised land, he kind of becomes like a god of war. He's like waging war and having his tribe kill other tribes and all this. And then in this story is cool because it's him as the mountain god. This fucking thunder and this lightning and the whole fucking mountains shaking as he's like doling out these laws. So I like seeing like the many hats of God. So here we're going to get into the thing. Also, I think let's just keep that specific instance kind of in the back of our mind. We know that when Moses gets done, he comes down and he sees all these Israelites. They fashioned a golden calf and they're all worshiping the golden calf, and he fucking loses his shit. So let's keep that in mind. I often wonder, like, well, what are they getting out of the worship of this calf? Because, like, they were all just shitting themselves because God came down and rattled this whole fucking mountain in thunder and lightning and shit spitting out everywhere. It's like the end of the Ghostbusters movie. So it's like, what possibly could have let them backslide back into this worshiping of the cow? Why do you say it's backslide, Towers? Like, well, it's backslide because it's all about the procession of the ages. It's all about the zodiac. So, Moses is oft shown with horns, especially after this episode that he's about to have. He comes down from the mountain and he's like transformed. In some cases he's like fucking glowing and he has horns. In Renaissance artwork, he's often depicted with horn, or not often, but sometimes he's depicted with horns, because at this point in the story, he's representing the future. He's representing like the age of Aries. Moses and his stubbornness with the episodes with Pharaoh and all of that. And the preceding age would be the age of Taurus. That's why the cow is golden that they're worshiping. But also it has something to do with sex, right? It has to. These guys, I mean, what on earth else could it be? And I'm not saying they're fucking a golden cow, but maybe there's like some holy, women out there. Maybe there's some geez, how do I want to say that? Some priestesses out there willing to hear your confession. All right, so enough. I get into this Procession of the Ages business in my latest graphic novel, The Ages. It's actually organized by the different zodiac signs as chapters or whatever. Anyhow, the first commandment. The first word of God on Sinai was Anoki, meaning it is I. It was not a Hebrew word, but an Egyptian word that Israel first heard from God. He treated them as he did a king in his homecoming son, whom, returning from a long stay overseas, he addressed in the language of the son had acquired in a foreign land. So God addressed Israel in Egyptian because it was the language they spoke at the time. Israel recognized this word Anoki. That is, was God who addressed them. For when Jacob had assembled his children around his deathbed, he warned them to be mindful of the glory of God. And he confided to them the secrets of God would hereafter reveal to them with the word Anoki. And he said, with the word Anoki, he addressed my grandfather Abraham. Now, with the word Anoki, he addressed my father Isaac. And with the word Anoki, he addressed me. Know then that when he will come to you and will so address you, it will be he. But not otherwise. When the first commandment had come out of the mouth of God, thunder and lightning proceeded from his mouth. A torch was at his right and a torch was at his left, and his voice flew through the air, saying, my people, house of Israel, I am the eternal, your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt. When Israel heard this awful voice, they flew back in their horror 12 miles until the souls fled from them. Upon this, Torah turned to God, saying, Lord of the world, hast thou given me the living or to the dead? And God said, to the living, the Torah, but they are all dead. And God said, for thy sake I will restore them to life. Hereupon he let fall upon them the dew that will hereafter revive the dead, and they return to life. The trembling of heaven and earth that set upon the perception of the divine voice alarmed Israel so greatly that they could hardly stand on their feet. God hereupon sent to every one of them 2 angels. One lay on his hand upon his heart of each, that his soul might depart, and on the left of his head of each, that he might behold the Maker's splendor. They beheld the glory of God, as well as the otherwise invincible word, when it emanated from the divine vision and rolled forward in their ears, whereupon they perceived these words, wilt thou accept the Torah, which contains 248 commandments corresponding to the numbers of the members of the body? And they answered, yea, yea. Then on the word passed from the ear to the mouth, it kissed the mouth and rolled again to the ear, and called out to it, wilt thou accept the Torah, which contains 365 prohibitions corresponding to the days of the year? And when they replied, yeah, yeah, again the word turned from ear to the mouth and kissed it. And after the Israelites had in this wise taken upon themselves the commandments and the prohibitions, God opened the seven heavens and the seven earths and said, behold, these are my witnesses, that there is none like me in the heights or on the earth. See that I am the only one, and that I have revealed myself in my splendor and my radiance. If anyone should say to you, go serve other gods, then say, can one who has seen his Maker face to face, his splendor, in his glory and his strength, leave him and become an idolater? See, it is I that have delivered you out of your house of bondage, and it is I that have cleaved the sea before you and led you on dry land while I submerge your enemies in the depths. I am the God of the dry land as well as from the sea, of the past as well as of the future, the God of this world as well as of the future worlds. I am the God of all nations, but only with Israel is my name allied. If they fulfill my wishes, I, the eternal, am merciful, gracious, and long-suffering, and abundant in goodness and in truth. And if you are disobedient, then will I be a stern judge. And if you had not accepted the Torah, no punishment could have fallen upon you, were you not to fulfill it. But now you have accepted it. You must obey. In order to convince Israel of the unity and uniqueness of God, he bade all nature stand still, and all might see that there is nothing beside him. When God bestowed the Torah, no bird sang, no ox lowed, no Ophanim did not fly, the seraphim uttered not their holy, holy, holy. The sea did not roar, no creature uttered a sound at all. Its breathless silence to the world, to the words announced by an echoless voice. I am the Lord your God. So here's God showing off a little bit. I like the part about the seraphim uttered not their song. You know, we've talked about this before, about he created these angels just to fly around his throne praising him. What kind of entity would do something like this? Because these angels, obviously, they don't have free will. I mean, I say obviously, whatever. When I think of angels, I think of them as like really sophisticated robots. Like they're not real, because he can just create an infinite amount of numbers of them just so they can fly around his throne singing holy, 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 and praise God and all of this stuff. It's really like a narcissist sort of thing, right? These words as well as others made known by God on Mount Sinai were not heard by Israel alone, but the inhabitants of all the earth. The divine voice divided itself into the 70 tongues of men, so that all might understand it. But where Israel could listen to the voice without suffering harm, the souls of the heathens almost fled from them when they heard it. The divine voice sounded, all the dead in Sheol were revived and betook themselves to Sinai, for the revelation took place in the presence of the living as well as of the dead. Yea, even the souls of those who were not yet born were present. Every prophet, oh boy, that's loaded nowadays, isn't it? Every prophet, every sage received at Sinai his share of the revelation, which in the course of history was announced by them to all mankind. all heard indeed the same words, the same voice, corresponding to the individuality of each was God's way of speaking with them, and the same voice sounded differently to each one. So did the divine vision appear differently to each, wherefore God warned them not to ascribe the various forms to various beings, saying, do not believe that because you have seen me in various forms that there are various gods. I am the same that appeared to you at the Red Sea as the God of war, and at Sinai as the teacher. So this might seem silly, but the first thing that I think of when I read this part here is Galactus. So in Marvel, there's a character named Galactus, and he's this giant spacefaring. He's like a space god, and they track down planets, and he eats them. He's the devourer of worlds. But whenever he appears to one world, say it was full of like lizard people, were like the people that lived on that planet, they would see him as, they would still see his silly hat and all this stuff, like his gear is the same, but like the part that we would see as like a human mouth, it's like RoboCop. Like it would be like RoboCop except he had a lizard mouth. I don't know if that's making any sense. So the other commandments revealed on Sinai. After Israel had accepted the first commandment with, yea, God said, as you have now acknowledged me as your sovereign, I can now give you commands. Thou shalt not acknowledge the gods of other nations as such, for they bring no advantage to those who adore. Those who adore them. This thou shalt not do while I exist. Wow, this is the first time. This is the first time, not only in this text but ever, that I can think of where God is talking about a time where He doesn't exist. That's crazy. That's like some demiurge kind of stuff. I have given you my Torah in order to lend sovereignty to you. Hence, you must not kindle my wrath by breaking my covenant through idolatry. He's really like obsessed with this idolatry business. You shall not worship dead idols, but him who kills and restores to life, and in whose hand are all living things. Do not learn the works of other nations, for their works are vanity. I, the Eternal, your God, rule over the zeal and am not ruled by it. I wait until the fourth generation to visit punishment, but those who love me or fear me will I reward even until the 1,000th generation. When Moses heard these words, according to which God would visit upon the descendants the sins of their fathers only if the consecutive generations were one after another sinful, he cast himself upon the ground and thanked God for it, for he knew it never occurred among Israel that 3 consecutive generations were sinful. The third commandment read, O my people of Israel, none among you shall call the name of the Lord in vain. For he who swears falsely by the name of the Lord shall not go unpunished on the great judgment day, swearing falsely and terrible consequences, not only for the one who does it, but it endangers all the world. For when God created the world, he laid over the abyss a shard on which he engraved the ineffable name, that the abyss may not burst forth and destroy the world. But as often as swearing falsely in God's name, the letters of the ineffable name fly away. And as there is nothing to restrain the abyss, the waters burst forth from it to destroy the world. This would surely come to pass if God did not send the angel Isrealites, who has charge of the 7 pencils, to engrave anew the ineffable name on the shard. This is the first time I remember this story. This is awesome. So God set the world in peril of this abyss. And in order to stop the abyss from bursting forth and destroying the world, he put like a crystal there with his name on it to hold back the abyss. And whenever you curse his name, the letters fly away. And there's this angel, Isrealites, who's in charge of going down and repairing the name on this shard. Man, how did I never get this before? I mean, I got an idea for a new book. I like these stories where I've said some pretty crazy shit about God. So, but I like these stories where he kind of is surprised. So, like in the book of Job, Job's like, "What the fuck, man?" And God's like, he's like, "Hey, don't talk to me like that, bro, because I did some pretty amazing shit." And he starts telling this story about how he beat up this giant fish before, or like why, I guess it would be while he was making the earth. And this is something that I did as a prologue to the Ages, because I thought it was so great. Like, here's this ineffable God. You know, this is him. Like, he doesn't make any mistakes. All the mistakes are chalked up to human free will, right? So, but he creates this giant sea monster. And then, like, he didn't mean to do it because he's really proud of himself that he was able to beat this thing up. Hold on. Give me 1 second here. I want to go check this out. Hold on. I'm experiencing a giant sense of deja vu. I feel like I might have done this already before, but anyhow, it's cool. So this is the epilogue, or the prologue of my book, the books of the New Apocrypha, The Ages, by John Towers. BurningBallPublishing.com. So this picture is pretty cool. It's God's butt. This is a total meta reference to Moses looking at God's butt later on in the story, but it's God. He's pretty built looking, and he's facing down like this kaiju like fish monster. It was the dawn of the Lionian age, this new world still on the edge of chaos as it rumbled and settled into place. The oceans raged, and the sky was on fire. The creator god, Yaldabaoth, faced the first of his sacred mistakes. Somewhere during the work of creation, maybe the divine mathematics, the careful design, or the conjuring, summoning, and molding of matter itself, the willing of gravity, somewhere in the celestial process of creation, there was a miscalculation. God hadn't yet created life, however, he stood, colossal and swirling, primordial, raging oceans, looking at an impossible, defiant, living beast. The creature lurched out of the sea, titanic and angry. Scales like battle-scarred shields interlocking down its back, sulfur, smoke, and flame pouring from its mouth and nostrils, its many eyes black as the recently forgotten damnable void, long tentacles and spiny fins twitching, lashing, and flailing, sharp barbs and hooks, and a massive beak that was sharp and fast as lightning. Its massive body glistening with the waters of the new oceans. The living beast called Leviathan stands facing Yaldabaoth. Until that moment, the creator god, Yaldabaoth, has ever felt the emotions of loneliness and fear. And those emotions, in fact, what drove him to work to create this world. This work has made him feel great pride. However, beholding this beast, the Leviathan, in that blasted moment, the creator god felt utter terror. Maybe this terrifying creature was left over from what was before Yaldabaoth woke and began his work. Beholding Leviathan's lifeless black eyes, the titanic war-like body slicked with mucus and slime, God then felt disgust. And that turned to hatred. Divine hatred. Bathed in the black light of the strange eclipse, the two titanic creatures moved towards each other. Smoke and fire poured forth from Leviathan's beak as he screeched and hissed at the creator god Yaldabaoth, yelling, running forward knee deep in the swirling new sea, moving towards the impossible beast. Cosmically massive rippling muscles grabbed at Leviathan. The slimy hooked and barbed tentacles and tail and embraced God as the cosmic battle had been joined, and there was no one to witness it. It would soon be the age of Cancer, the time of men and of angels, and the age of Gemini, the age of the brothers. So that's fun to revisit that. But I feel like this story about the crystal in the abyss can sort of be like the same thing, right? Like, well, if you put his name on there, like the name of the Tetragrammaton, Adonai, all that stuff. If that is what gives this crystal power, then why? I don't know. It's just like, why would he think that? And it's funny that they had to explain it that way to sort of, because, we know that God does not have a sense of humor about this shit, right? So, I don't know. It's interesting. Like, why would it be that? Like, why would you make it if you curse the name of God, the name comes off this crystal holding back the end of the world? Just do something else. You're God, for Christ's sakes. I believe you can still pick up that book in the storefront. I believe it's still on Amazon. Back to the legends of the Jews. God said then to Israel, if you accept my Torah and observe my laws, I will give you for all eternity a thing most precious that I have in my possession. And what, replied Israel, is that precious thing which thou wilt give us if we obey thy Torah? And God said, the future world. And Israel said, but even in this world, should we have a foretaste of that other? And God said, Sabbath will give you the foretaste. Be mindful of the Sabbath on the seventh day of creation of the world. When the world was created, that seventh day came before God and said to him, all that thou created is in couples. Why not I? Whereupon God replied, the community of Israel shall be thy spouse. Of this promise that God has made on to the 70 day, he reminded the people on Mount Sinai when he gave them the fourth commandment to keep the Sabbath holy. When the nations of the earth first heard this commandment, they said, there is no king that does not see himself acknowledged as sovereign. And just so does God desire his people to pledge unto him their allegiance. In the second commandment, they said, no king suffers a king besides himself, nor does the God of Israel. The third commandment, they said, there is a king that would like to have people swear false oaths in his name. That the fourth commandment say, no king dislikes to see his birthday celebrated. But when the people heard the fifth commandment, honor thy father and thy mother, they said, according to our law, if a man enrolls himself as a servant of the king, he thereby disowns his parents. God, however, makes it a duty to honor thy father and thy mother. Truly, for this is honor due to him. It was with these words that the fifth commandment was emphasized. Honor thy parents to whom thou owest existence. as thou honorest me, and honor the body that bore thee, and the breasts that gave thee suck. Maintain thy parents, for thy parents took part in thy creation, for a man owes his existence to God, to his father, and to his mother, and there that he receives from each his parents 5 of the parts of his body, and 10 from God, and the bones, and the veins, and the nails, and the brains, and the white of the eye come from the father. And the mother gives him skin, and flesh, and blood, and hair, and the pupil of the eye, and God gives him the following: the breath, the soul, the light of countenance, sight, hearing, speech, touch, sense, insight, and understanding. When a human being honors his parents, God says, I consider it as if I had dwelt amongst men, and they had honored me. But if the people do not honor their parents, God says, it is good that I do not dwell among men, or they would have treated me superciliously too. God not only commanded to love and fear parents as himself, but in some respects he places the honor due to parents even higher than the due to him. A man is only obliged to support the poor or to perform certain religious ceremonies if he has wherewithal. But it is the duty of each one even to go begging at men's doors if he cannot otherwise maintain his parents. And the 6th commandment said, O my people of Israel, be no slayers of men. Do not associate with murderers and shun their companionship, that your children may not learn the craft of murder. As a penalty for deeds of murder, God will send a devastating war over mankind, and there are 2 divisions in Sheol, an inner and an outer. The latter are all those who were slain before their time, and they stay until the courses of their time predestined to them is run. And every time a murder has been committed, God says, who has slain this person and has forced me to keep him in the outer Sheol, so that I must appear unmerciful to have removed him from earth before his time. On the judgment day, the slain will appear before God and will implore him, O Lord of the world, thou hast transformed me. Thou hast developed me. Thou hast been gracious unto me while I was in the womb, so that I left it unharmed. Thou in thy great mercy has provided for me, O Lord of the worlds. Grant me satisfaction from this villain that knew no pity for me. Then God's wrath will be kindled against the murderer into Gehenna. We will throw him and damn him for all eternity, while the slain will see satisfaction given to him and be glad. The 7th commandment says, O my people of Israel, be not adulterers, nor the accomplices or the companions of adulterers, that your children after you may not be adulterers. Commit no unchastened deeds with your hands, feet, eyes, or ears for a punishment. Therefore, the plague will come over the world. In the 8th commandment, be not a thief, nor the accomplice or companion of thieves, that your children may not become thieves. As a penalty of robbery and theft, famine will come upon the world. God may forgive idolatry, but never theft. And he was always ready to listen to the complaints against foragers and robbers. The 9th commandment reads, O my people of Israel, bear not false witness against your companions, for in punishment for this is the clouds will scatter so that there will be no rain, and famine will ensue owing to drought. God is particularly severe with false witness because falsehood is the one quality that God did not create. This is something that men themselves produce. The content of the 10th commandment is, O my people of Israel, covet not the possessions of your neighbors. For owing to this sin will the government take their possessions from the people, so that even the wealthiest will become poor and will not have to go into exile. The 10th commandment is directed against a sin that sometimes leads to trespassing of all the 10 commandments. If a man covets his neighbor's wife and commits adultery, neglects the first commandment, I am eternal, thy God, for he commits his crime in the dark and thinks that no one sees him. Not even the Lord, whose eyes float over the world and see good as well as evil. He oversteps the second commandment. Thou shalt not have strange gods besides me. I am a jealous God, who is wroth against faithlessness, whether towards me or towards men. He breaks the third commandment. Thou shalt not take the name of the Lord in vain, for he swears he has not committed adultery, but he did so. And he is the cause of profanation. Oh, that's a good one. Of the Sabbath. The consecration of which God commands in the fourth commandment. Because of his illegal retaliation, he generates descendants who will perform priestly duties in the temple on the Sabbath, which, being bastards, they have no right to do. The fifth commandment will be broken by the children of the adulterers, who will honor as a father of a strange man and who will not even know their true father. He breaks the sixth commandment, thou shalt not kill. If he is surprised by the rightful husband, for every time a man goes into a strange woman, he does so with the consciousness that this may lead to his death or the death of his neighbor. The trespassing of the seventh commandment, thou shalt not commit adultery, is a direct outcome of forbidden coveting. The eighth commandment, thou shalt not steal, is broken by the adulterer, for he steals another man's fountain of happiness. I like that. The ninth commandment, thou shalt not bear false witness, is broken by the adulterous woman who pretends that the fruit of her criminal relations is the child of her husband. In this way, the breaking of the 10th commandment has not only led to all the other sins, but is also the evil effect on the deceived husband leaves the whole property to one who is not his son, so that the adulterer robs him of his possessions as well as his wife. All right, well, if you celebrate, I would like to wish you all a happy Easter. Enjoy your ham and your deviled eggs or whatever. So I've got to go and find Aliens on whatever streaming services I have, because that's my traditional Easter movie. So I'm going to go and get busy doing that, make some dinner. I'm leaving town again this weekend, so wish me luck traveling and surviving my parents' house for the holiday. And I hope, if all you guys are traveling, I hope you guys are all safe and sound. And remember, the cops don't give a shit about your Fifth Amendment rights. And there was something else I wanted to talk about, but I'm not sure what it was. That Abracast.com, check out the storefront. You can buy the books there. I'm sorry for veering wildly off into that. I just really got stuck with that story. Is a pretty cool story. I like it. And also, sorry about the whole Jeremy Boring thing at the beginning, but this is really weighing heavily on me. This idea of building sort of our own culture. Like, I think that this is something that we really fucked up, is ignoring, all the craziness in Hollywood and all this other kind of stuff. So there's that and that. And I have a sort of one of the super fans of the show. She constantly, I don't want to say constantly, every once in a while she'll post up promoting the show Rotten Roz on Instagram. It's her birthday, the day of recording, which is Friday, the 2 days before Easter. So if you're listening to this, happy birthday. And I guess that's it. I'll just let Hilla tell you the rest of it. And I'll see you guys soon.
Thank you for listening, and we hope that you enjoyed the show. Please send an email or find us on social media and let us know what you think about the show. We would appreciate it if you would give us a 5-star rate and review wherever you find your favorite podcasts. You can find Stigmata Studios, graphic, novels, and comic books. Take control of your destiny. Understand your past, put your present in context, and know your future with a twist. Check out the Abracast Tarot card deck. Your body is your temple. So let's make sure you got a badass t-shirt on it. Variety of cool occult themed t-shirts. And other merch like stickers, wall art, mugs, and more. Welcome to the Red Archive. Get access to over 50 hours of archived episodes. More bonus audio. Additional exclusive content. All this for only $1 a month. Are you interested in the occult, history, conspiracy, and violence? Learn more at Abracast.com.